By the late 17th century, the concept of identity was undergoing a profound transformation, dictated not by birth but by documentation. The law had become rigid, yet control over people remained elusive. To manage society and labor, the system turned to a new instrument: paper. In the early colonial period, identity was fluid, defined by community, religion, or language. Africans were known by their specific nations: Congo, Yoruba, Igbo. Indigenous peoples were recognized by their tribal affiliations, Europeans by allegiance and class. But as land became property and labor transformed into wealth, this fluid understanding of identity became a perceived threat. Colonial society was not orderly. Free Africans, indentured Europeans, enslaved Africans, and indigenous peoples coexisted. Intermarriages were common. Families formed that transcended newly imposed categories. This complex reality generated legal uncertainty, particularly concerning inheritance and status. Three institutions gained control over identity on paper: churches, courts, and property offices. These records were not designed for truth, but to assign status, allocate labor, and secure land claims. People from dozens of distinct African nations, speaking varied languages, were reduced to a single term: Negro. This linguistic collapse rendered diverse individuals interchangeable, facilitating efficient control. The systematic erasure of African names, replaced by European surnames of ownership, fractured genealogical lines, ensuring the record would not remember. Once names were removed from the record, the law could decide who belonged. In 1662, Virginia changed how identity would be inherited. A child's status would no longer follow the father. It would follow the condition of the mother. This decision severed genealogical lines. Fathers disappeared from the record. Lineage stopped at birth. For African families, ancestry survived in memory. But memory had no legal standing. In 1667, another path to recognition was removed. Christian baptism would no longer change a person's status. Faith could be acknowledged. Identity could not. With each law, identity narrowed. For Africans, reclassification collapsed nations into a single designation: Congo, Yoruba, Igbo. None of these survived on paper. When genealogy cannot be recorded, it cannot be defended. Courts valued written record over spoken truth. Africans could not testify against Europeans. Indigenous oral history was dismissed. For indigenous peoples, identity was erased through reclassification. Nations became populations. Sovereignty became administration. Africans were reclassified to justify ownership. Indigenous peoples were reclassified to deny nationhood. Different outcomes. Same mechanism. This is how genealogical fracture became permanent. Descendants would inherit gaps instead of names. Later generations would argue over identity the record had already destroyed. This was not confusion. This was design. When identity is erased on paper, people spend generations searching for what was taken. Two things can be true at the same time. African lineage survived without recognition. Indigenous lineage survived without protection. With identity fixed and law hardened, expansion could accelerate. Land would be seized. Crops would multiply. Labor would be extracted at scale. That expansion comes next. Stay bold, stay curious, and keep uncovering the truth behind the myth.